Wir haben Feldpost! Hello and welcome back to another episode of Feldpost Sunday here on the World War II History and Reenacting YouTube channel. So, if you didn't watch my previous video, well, basically, my video editing computer decided to die on me. And unfortunately, as of yet, there is no progress on potentially saving my now potentially lost video editing project files, which I spent a lot of time on, and that really sucks. But thank you all so much for all the kind words and encouragements on the previous video. I really, really appreciate it. And if you haven't watched the video, go back and watch it. It explains everything. But the show must go on, and we're back with another episode. So, let's see what's in the bag, shall we? See if we can get out of here. We have a box. Nice. But before we open this box, I would like to give a big shout out to my Patreon supporters who makes these videos possible for you all to enjoy. Thank you guys. Really, really appreciate it. Almost forgot. There's more. We have cardboard. Lots of cardboard. Ooh. Yes. Nice. Here we have a beautiful example of a French artillery brass shell casing for the model 1913 105mm French MLE Schneider field gun, later captured and redesignated as the K331F by the Germans in 1940, with the K signifying Kanone, or gun in German, and the letter F denoting its former French origin. These guns were commonly redeployed in coastal artillery roles, serving in army coastal batteries across occupied Europe, and became a familiar sight along the heavily fortified Atlantic Wall. In German, this type of casing is known as Hülsenkartusche, and in the case of this particular example, it would have contained one of 3 different sized propellant charges. With the full charge, the gun was capable of firing a shell out to roughly 12,000 meters, depending on the type of ammunition used. If we take a closer look at the base, we can see several different markings relating to the gun model, along with what I presume are manufacture and production markings. So if any of you are familiar with French ordnance markings, please let me know down in the comments, as I would love to learn more about what they mean. Another interesting detail is that the primer has clearly been struck, meaning this casing is in a fired state. And finally, if we look closely near the base of the casing, we can still make out several faint lines of additional markings. Beautiful. That's beautiful. Now, let's move on to the big box. You guys ready? Ooh. See what it is? Look at that. Isn't that cool? That's beautiful. It's beautiful condition. This is a German Overboot, sentry boot for wintertime. Let's see what else is in here. We have a matching pair. Look at that. Isn't that cool? And there's more. Hey, another one. Another matching pair. Look at that. And there's more. Another one. Another pair. Look at that. Cool. Nice. Look at those. That's so cool. These gigantic and rather crazy-looking German military winter overboots are lined with wool felt and feature thick, insulating wooden soles. They were designed to be worn over the soldier's jackboots and were intended primarily for static duties, such as guard duty during harsh winter conditions, hence the name Wachtstiefel, or sentry boots. They are heavy, rigid, and clearly built for warmth rather than mobility. At first glance, this appears to be a matching pair, but on closer inspection, I noticed that these are actually two same-size boots from entirely different manufacturers. What makes this especially interesting is that the differences are fairly subtle, with only a few noticeable variations in construction and finish. Although it may not immediately look like it, both boots are in fact the same size, and the wooden soles are exactly the same length. Both are constructed from similarly colored coarse wool felt and smooth light brown leather, fitted with black painted roller buckles. Perhaps the pair became mixed up and separated from their significant other at some point during their wartime service. One detail worth pointing out is the shape of the heel transition. Both boots feature blackened sides on the wooden soles, but the example on the right has a rounded heel transition, while the other has a much sharper 90-degree straight cut. These are clearly variations in the manufacturing process. The second obvious difference is the construction of the uppers. The boot on the right uses a single-piece leather side upper, while the example on the left features a two-piece construction. And finally, the third noticeable difference is the separate strip of leather nailed between the upper and the wooden sole, creating almost like a false welt appearance, replacing the more typical straight nailed finish seen on the example to the right. This particular boot was manufactured in 1942 by Paul Otto Filz- und Schuhwarenfabrik in the city of Hachta in Sachsen, Germany, a factory specializing in felt footwear. The other boot was manufactured in the same year by Anton Sartowski Schuhfabrik, a shoe factory located in Berlin. The number 31 indicates the size and can be found both on the leather manufacturing label and stamped into the underside of the wooden sole. The second pair is in fact a true matching pair, featuring smooth blackened leather throughout, along with blackened wooden soles that show very little sign of use. Overall, these boots are in remarkably good condition. Just look at those beautiful black painted roller buckles and leather straps. These boots were also manufactured by Anton Sartowski Schuhfabrik in 1942. We can clearly see the size marking of 28, which is stamped both inside on the wooden sole and on the underside of the boot. The second boot features the exact same label and matching size markings. Interestingly, this boot also has the number 8 written in red pencil next to the size marking, most likely added during the manufacturing process, perhaps a batch number or something like that. The third and final pair is also matching and features nice thick coarse brown wool felt combined with smooth black leather details and unblackened wooden soles. There is some minor rust visible on the black painted roller buckles, but the leather straps remain supple and in very good condition. And it looks like these have not been adjusted for a very long time, possibly even since the war. One interesting detail is the heel construction. Unlike the previous examples, these heels are finished with an additional separate square piece of leather. These boots were manufactured by Hermann Müller Filz- und Schuhwarenfabrik, also located in the city of Hachta in Sachsen, Germany. The factory specialized in felt and leather footwear, and particularly wool felt slippers. What makes this pair especially interesting is the manufacturing date. These boots are dated 1940, which to my limited knowledge is quite early for this particular evolution and construction of the so-called Wachtstiefel. And I believe these are probably one of the earliest I have ever seen. The size is marked as 30 and can be seen stamped on the leather manufacturing label. So I really hope that you enjoyed this episode of Feldpost Sunday, and if you did, please hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on the next episode of Feldpost Sunday. That's all for now. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, auf Wiedersehen.